I'd love to know where you are emotionally right now, because this has been a long road. I mean, I think you guys premiered last year, and now you're finally unleashing it to the masses. How does that feel?
It feels, it feels like the sort of end of a road. I mean, the end of the road could very well have been in spring of this year, where they wanted to release it in spring, and I said, please don't. People tend to think about homelessness when the holidays come around, and can we delay? And so the delay has definitely prolonged the process, but it's now I've been bleeding into this for 3 years, so it feels odd actually to be about to say bon voyage.
Does it feel like there's a period of this might sound strange, but like a period of mourning? I mean, since this is so intensely personal to you.
It certainly did when the day we stopped filming. The next day was very bleak for me, because it just felt like a vacuum. And then the editorial began, and that was wonderful. And then, you finally deliver the finished thing, and there are all these sort of little interstitial things that you need to get done, and then it becomes about pushing it out into the world, and that's a very different experience, and something very separate from the film that you made. So it is. These are good questions. It is a really odd. It is an odd experience, and it's my first experience doing that. So
yeah. I want to talk to you about it being the first experience for you, but first of all, just the film itself. I mean, I miss films like this. The intense, intimate character dramas. And it reminded me, and I know that you've said this before in interviews, but before I even read an interview with you about the film, it reminded me of the work of Jerry Schatzberg in the early 70s with Scarecrow and Panic in Needle Park. That had to have been kind of a litmus test for you and the kind of tone you wanted.
Yes, although, I think the tone is very much a mix between, and sometimes I think it throws people a curveball when they fall into the water and they fall into a puddle and swim in a sort of subterranean world, and it's an expression of them being cleaned and sometimes people stumble with that, because it's a much more, if the film was taking place in Paris, nobody would stumble, because Tarkovsky would have done it, would do, even today, Jacques Audiard, in a film like A Prophet, manages to mix something that is very documentary in terms of, it's shot 185, and he has it feels very gritty, and then suddenly there's a ghost who's on fire in the cell with him. So I mean, I think it is a mixture of the American golden era for me was the 1970s, and Jerry Schatzberg and Cassavetes and lots of people, Sidney Lumet, the movies that made me want to become an actor, and also a European tradition too. So I think it is absolutely a mix between those two schools.
Well, and absolutely, and those moments that you mentioned. Those are other flourishes in the film that I love, because it allows these characters, even if it just exists kind of a fantasy realm, moments of transcendence in this very bleak existence. And I'm curious about that, because you obviously, you're dealing with topics such as homelessness and drug addiction, very, very bleak subjects. How did you go about maintaining a level of dignity for your characters? Was that important for you to consider?
Yes. I mean, I think that I do my very best. I try my hardest to be a good actor, and I do think that the exercise of trying to be a good actor is about being able to place yourself imaginatively in somebody else's circumstances, right? So I think that my empathy muscle is, whether I'm good at it or not, I'm trying very hard. I can promise you that, and so I think that my empathy muscle is quite well developed in that way. So they do have dignity for me. The film. I never set out to make a film about homelessness being bad or drug addiction being bad or how people suffering from either of those things are criminals or victims. I didn't want to do that. The film's about judgment and how in a world of increasing gray area we seem to be more and more entrenched in black and white positions, and for me I feel like that's dangerous. I feel like it isn't going too well, and so that's really what the film is about. Is just reserve your judgment for 5 fucking minutes, and please, and just see the human being there.
Absolutely, I think that that's the main benefit and the beauty of this movie, in that, in my experiences with the homeless, I'm always left with the thought that that could be me. I mean, fate can turn one way or another, and I think that's important to consider, because for a long time homelessness was on the tip of everyone's list. It was kind of for lack of a better term, a celebrated cause. Uh-huh. And then it gets replaced by other social issues and conquests. But I think it's so crucial that you're putting this back in the consciousness of the public.
Well, thank you. I do too, and I'm glad that there are other movies. Richard Gere's movie. There's a movie in England right now. I think there are 2 movies in England that deal with a similar subject matter, and I live in New York City. There are, last year we passed 2 milestones. One was that an apartment for $100 million sold, and the other is that 60,000 people sheltered in the municipal shelter system every night. 24,000 of them tonight will be children. These are extraordinary figures, and kind of baffling. And the numbers, I think numbers can be quite numbing, And so the strange thing that happens, I think, with narrative is that numbers become more meaningful the smaller they get. So, which is why Shelter's about 2 people, and who both need to find forgiveness and find it through each other.
Yeah, you've worked with so many of our greatest filmmakers, and I know that you probably took whatever observations you made from working with them and tried to apply them to your own directorial debut. That being said, what was the most surprising part of the process for you that you just simply weren't prepared for?
Honestly, the pre-production. I hated it. It was the one piece of the making of a movie that I'd never seen. And it was awful. It was just people telling me we couldn't do the thing that I wanted to do because of lack of money. It was just relentlessly people saying, no, we can't do that. No, you can't do that. Can't do that. And right up until the moment that my DP showed up from Mexico, and then it became about what we could do, and then it became beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I would think that the film would be a hard sell. I mean, was that a big challenge to find someone that believed in it to put up the money without compromising its potential?
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's hard to make a film about a junkie, prostitute, and a and a Nigerian Muslim illegal immigrant. You know, it is. People don't want to lavish money on the project. So it really helps if you can attach to stars to be able to raise financing.
Well, and in terms of, this is, I'm sure that every filmmaker alive would say, if only we had more money and more time.
Mm-hmm.
But, with the 22-day shooting schedule that you had, is there a benefit to having to work that fast? Does it infuse itself into
Well, the benefit is
work?
people tend to leave. I don't think so. I think the benefit, I don't see any benefit in the not having enough time, because everybody, the actors included, would want more takes and more setups and more time to put your camera in a unexpected place that you think, well, I'll never need this, but what the hell, I'm going to do it anyway, and maybe it, like we have, there's a shot in the movie of a kite caught in power lines. How many more shots were, I didn't think we needed it. I was just, why are you shooting this? DP, and it's in the movie, and how many more shots would there have been if we had a more leisurely pace? The good news is that because it was such a tiny budget, people tend to leave you alone, and you can make at least with the tools that you have and the performances that you have, the most honest, uncompromised version of your vision. Because you don't have a studio coming and saying we cannot have the scene where Hannah has semen on her face. We just can't have it. You need to cut it. You people ask you to cut it, but you can say absolutely not, and I'll buy the movie back off you before I allow you to do that. So you can stay true to your intentions.
Yeah. Did you find? You put this together from scratch. From the second you put pen to paper, and it backwards and forwards. But in the editing room, is there still a process where the film kind of redefines itself somewhat before your eyes?
Absolutely, 100%. All of that's true. There's the film you write, the film you shoot, and the film that you cut. 100% true.
Mm. And so, what did the film tell you it wanted to be when you got it? It told me lots of things. There were more like you would make. The wonderful thing about cutting digitally is the amount of mistakes that you can make, and then go, wait, but don't put that right. That was a good mistake. Mm-hmm.
There's a theme in the movie where I slip dialogue out of the characters' mouths and sort of truncate yet stretch time in it, and the dinner scene, and that happened by and also his death scene, and also when he's having an asthma attack, and also during the panhandling sequence. And it really helped make a 2-minute sequence feel like a day had gone past, or a minute-long moment in the dinner scene feel like an evening had gone past, a sort of languid evening. And that was all born out of a accident where I was editing on my own and didn't know how to lay a sound correctly. And I sent it to my editor, and he cleaned it all up. And I said, actually, no, it was better when she wasn't speaking in sync. Can you let's have that back? And he thought I was crazy. And I said, but wait, what does it does this weird, strange thing when I watch it, which is it feels like more time has passed than has passed. So let's find other moments to do that. And it was never supposed to, we didn't shoot it to, I didn't shoot it to to be that. I probably shouldn't be confessing this. I'm probably sounding like less like the brilliant auteur that I'm trying to sound like, but that's the truth. But I guess recognizing those moments is important. Recognizing something like that might be really useful.
That's a big part of the talent of being a director, I would think, to be big open to the gods, so to speak, or happy accidents.
Here's another thing that's interesting. It is interesting that you say that, because because we didn't, I had 2 to 3 takes of everything, if I was lucky. If when I was lost and couldn't see the wood for the trees, I could blow a day of editorial and just look through absolutely every piece of footage that I had shot in the entire movie in one day. So, and then you can actually hold it in your head for the evening and go home and think about what the movie might be. So that I guess that is a benefit of being so muscular and slimmed down as a production.
Yeah. My last question for you. I mean, every filmmaker, their dream is for their work to kind of engage an audience. And the festival circuit and any screenings that you've had, I mean, that's a unique opportunity to actually interact with that audience and engage with them. What has most delighted you or surprised you about what audiences have taken away from the film after watching it?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. The most extraordinary thing has been people coming up to me afterwards or emailing me later on and saying, I haven't looked at a homeless person the same since I saw your movie. And it's really given me pause for thought, because, that was the whole point, and it was for me, was about reserve your judgment. That makes me really proud. That's been really, really gratifying.